Alright, this video is going to be real quick. I'm going to try and make it quick, but I'm going to explain something. The reality of the matter is, everything that's been going on with me, this legal case, all of it has been geared around one guiding principle, one guiding philosophy, if you will. That has been the principle of guerrilla warfare. Now, everyone is aware of guerrilla warfare as a means of shooting and killing and blowing things up and ambushing the enemy and all this other stuff. But what you don't understand is that is only a very small part of the guerrilla operation. Guerrilla warfare, first and foremost, is a socio-political form of warfare. It is both psychological and propagandist. Now, I have waited 3 terms of the grand jury, a total of over 9 months, to wait on the prosecutor's office to drop the charges they're supposed to do. They haven't. I've taken one psychological exam which says I am both sane and innocent, and another one which, from what I've been told, will mean that I'm sane. The prosecutor's worried that I'm a dangerous person. Well, I'll be quite honest about it. I am a dangerous person. Not in the way that I seek to do harm to others, not in the way that I seek to physically harm others, but in the way that I understand things. See, when I was filing my complaints and trying to gather the evidence in the initial case, I went all the way to the governor's office. The governor's office has all of the evidence, and I talked directly to the assistant governor via the phone. This has been done, and all of this information has been put out to other people. This has been done in a certain way. I haven't revealed all of it because, well, quite honestly, this is a catch-22. See, this whole thing is broken down into phases. Phase 1 is a matter of gathering evidence and gathering intelligence and letting people make their attacks. This is very much the way that Gandhi or Martin Luther King fought their guerrilla wars. And yes, you can think of them as guerrilla warfare. By taking the stance of nonviolence, by taking the stance of non-aggression, these men were able to become victims and allow themselves to be victimized so that they could prove a mentality of victimization. I've done this. I've also made it a very clear and present fact that they have allowed, via the very laws of the United States of America, which they are sworn to uphold, they're somehow hiding, that they have violated the Constitution and the laws of this country. And since I have filed the complaints and sent the evidence all the way up to the governor's office, Governor Earl Ray Tomlins, or at least specifically his assistant governor who I talked to over the phone, who had this information, are held culpable. They are held responsible. The Superintendent of State Police is also held responsible under the same guidelines. The Office of Professional Standards under Captain White also held responsible. And then as the direct actors, Lieutenant Deeds from Professional Standards, Palmatier, Efred, Moore, Duckworth, all of them are culpably and directly responsible going back to the original case. Now, see, like I said, guerrilla warfare is essentially socio-political. By exposing their little secrets, by having these people coming out and trying to attack me over the internet, and having others attacking me over the internet and trying to push their little propagandist campaigns, what they have in fact done is simply informed everyone of what the attack on me, but they haven't informed everyone of the information I've done to prove that it was attacked on me, which is fine. Various elements have already been produced, various things have already been set out, and everyone is aware of these. Quite simply put, the prosecutor's office is being put into a unique situation. They have to either say that I'm crazy and that I intend to do people harm, which I don't, or, and I'm not, or they have to accept that I'm sane and that everything I've done has been a calculated socio-political objective. What that does, what that means, is that now people have to be investigated, other people need to be dealt with, and the evidence is already there. If the state refuses to do so, the prosecutor refuses to do so, if whatever, we go to court and this stuff still comes out in court, it doesn't really matter, because once it comes out in court, they're still held responsible, they're still caught holding the bag. And then it follows immediately up that chain. And quite simply put, people's careers will be ended. The reputation of the state's government as far as being corrupt and criminal will be exposed. So, yeah, there's the socio-political landscape. See, guerrilla warfare is considered low-intensity war because the greatest thing that the guerrillas can do is simply to survive, simply to exist, to be an affront to the government. And propaganda, which all messages of politics and political goals and such is nothing more than propaganda. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican, conservative, liberal, libertarian, none of that really matters. It doesn't matter what group identity you choose to associate yourself with. While this is an issue between individuals in this one extent, it is also an issue where people are hiding behind their cloak of authority. So I must treat this almost as an insurrection and attack that cloak of authority directly. So, because of the actions of these individuals and are hiding behind that cloak of authority, I have had to go so far as to pull everything attached to that cloak of authority, including the highest seat of government in this state, the governor's office, into it. Beyond that, it simply becomes a federal issue. And much of this has already been explained and exposed to Lieutenant Deeds. And quite simply, I doubt the governor's going to take the fall, and I doubt the assistant governor is going to take the fall. Most likely the governor's office will pass the buck right on down to the superintendent of state police, since the state police matter. And then he, of course, is going to pass the buck down to Captain White of Professional Standards, who's going to pass the buck down to Lieutenant Deeds and such. And I have to cause a massive political embarrassment for these people by doing that. And here's the thing about it, whether truthful or not, even though I'm telling you it's truthful, but whether truthful or not, whether deemed truthful or not, whether stated as truthful or not, every accusation I've mentioned, even though others have gone out and said they were lies and so on and so forth, has to be investigated. And this is the very thing, the very fact that Amanda Kirk was so scared of, which is why she got on the internet trying to attack me and bringing up other people who have attacked my business through business competition, who have involved themselves in this matter, who have been pulled into this kind of socio-political sinkhole, if you will, that the actions of others has created. Now, while I personally lack a great deal of political power, I do understand that by using the actions of others who have that political power to threaten their careers brings that political power down on the people that are essentially hiding behind the cloak of authority, which is attaches them to those people with political power. This is essentially the basis of guerrilla warfare. At a certain point, an agreement has to be made. Most likely this agreement will come through Christine Keller and the prosecutors in the Raleigh County Prosecutor's Office, who I don't have anything directly linking her to any involvement in this, and it does fall back on, even though I have mentioned the prosecutor's office, at the time this occurred, she was not the prosecutor for Raleigh County in the original trial, and some of the events in this case will just have to be passed the buck on down to those assistant prosecutors directly involved. And of course, this also involves the Beckley police officers and a great deal of the deputies on the Raleigh County Sheriff's Department. Like I said, it's a political sinkhole. It pulls all of us into it to a greater and greater extent. So we can keep digging ourselves a highway to hell, or we can just plug the hole and cut our losses. It's just a matter of what comes where. And it's important to realize that in a very unique way, this is in fact an insurrection. It's not a violent insurrection. I've used no violence. It doesn't even violate the West Virginia State Code dealing with insurrection, which says that military or paramilitary training for the purpose of overthrowing the state government is illegal, and it's certainly not an act of terrorism because there's no bombs, no bullets, no acts of violence. There is me simply stating in one case that by the very laws of this country, by the very laws of the Supreme Court of the United States of America, I have a right to resist a false arrest up to and possibly even including killing a cop. That is deemed as a matter of self-defense. And I've already stated there's this issue with good faith, bad faith. A police officer serving a warrant, even though the warrant is based on false pretenses, who does not know that the warrant is based on false pretenses, is acting in good faith. And to kill this person in self-defense, even though it's a matter of self-defense, it is still a matter punishable, more or less a case of manslaughter, because And even then, I don't think the person who pulled the trigger should be deemed as the person who committed murder, but the person who provided the false warrant. But in either case, it comes down to this issue of we're not talking about good faith or bad faith. Bad faith has already been proven more than enough. It comes down to a matter of good faith. And so, following the results of the second psychological exam, we're going to see exactly where that comes into. And even me stating that legally, there's a legal precedence by the court, by the Supreme Court of the United States, which is valid in all states, that you can potentially kill someone in self-defense, including a police officer, isn't a threat to use violence. It's not even a veiled threat to use violence. It's simply me stating that the law provides a certain outcome. Whether or not I choose that outcome is up to me as an individual, and I haven't chosen that outcome. And if such a point in time in the future does come up that I do have to choose that outcome, it won't be because I want to harm anyone. It will be quite simply because there is no other outcome left for me to choose. I much more prefer the peaceful socio-political realm of guerrilla warfare to going out here and killing people and blowing things up because, well, I just don't think killing people is really all that much worth it. Now, that being said, now you know. Now you understand the framework of my mind, the grand design to my every action. And the weapon I used, very much so, to create this insurgency, this one-man insurgency, this very revolution, if you will, isn't bombs or bullets or killing people, or even the threat of killing people. It is simply the very laws of this country, which doing things within the bounds of the laws of this country, gathering evidence against others when they're trying to commit crimes against you, regardless of their position and authority within government, and accusing those who are aware of these actions taken and by these other individuals who are shielded and protected by these cloaks of authority isn't illegal in any way, shape, or form. It is what the system is there for. It is working completely within the system. I use the term insurrection and insurgency very loosely because it is an insurgency in the spirit of, directly attacking the cloak of authority these people hide behind, but I'm not trying to destroy the instrument of the authority. I'm not trying to destroy the government. I'm simply trying to remove the cloak of authority from those who are acting criminal, or acting in criminal ways to push their own agendas, and doing so under the cloak of authority. And the only way this can be removed is if, of course, if we remove the cloak of authority from them, which in some regards has to fall back on accusing Rory Tomlins and the assistant governor and the superintendent of state police and Captain White from, and you all heard the recording of where I had spoken to Captain White the day before the warrant was filed on me. The recording of Lieutenant Deeds asking me for the password for a device which is supposed to be in the forensics lab, but apparently was removed from it, which destroys the chain of custody and the basis for the evidence. The recordings of my lawyer trying to make excuses and cover up for the fact that there was evidence on those computers. We've all seen this. We've all been made aware of these things. And that's just enough to taint the courts, as it were, or to taint the public opinion, as it were, against these people, so that the state in and of itself lacks lawful authority. That only leaves two options. Either the state corrects the problem, or the federal government has to come in, declare martial law in the state, and correct the problem. And so, while I lack the political power or the power within the system to provide change, I am essentially forcing the instrument thereof within the system itself, to provide the change for me. This is how the system is meant to work. So I guess we'll just have to see how things turn out, won't we?